Hey everybody, good evening. It's Ellen Lewis from Crazy for You. It is so nice to see you. And I can't believe that it is almost the end of the year. You know, as I've been saying all holiday season, Christmas comes the same day every year. I do not know why I'm always surprised, but there it is. So I wanted to share with you this week kind of all the things that I had knit this year, because I think that's kind of a fun way to sort of wrap up the new year. And as I was looking through them, I was disappointed in myself. Honestly, I hadn't done nearly as many things as I had hoped. I didn't get done a lot of the things that I had wanted to do, and I started thinking, well, what the heck have you been doing, Ellen? But the truth is that it's not that I wasn't knitting, because I certainly was. It's just that I wasn't making all the projects. So those of you who know that I taught at Row and Connect this year, and at least every month I do a review of some yarn. So I have made so many swatches. I wanted to show you this. All right. I made so many swatches. I thought I was going to stream to Instagram, but I'm on my laptop. You can see I'm in the sunroom today, and so I didn't have that. So anyway, my computer is giving me a ration. Anyway, when you teach a class, I have all of these swatches that I did for the 2 classes I did for Row and Connect. Look at this. I think this is totally a sweater's worth of knitting. If I had put all of these different swatches together, this would have been a sweater. So I think I might count this as one thing. I knit all the stuff for Row and Connect classes. So there's that. Tell me if you think that counts. Tell me in the chat if you think that counts. So I love to see you guys here. Thank you for coming, Terry and Jal and Gwen and Glenn and Polly and Phyllis. It's lovely to have you. Okay, so let's get to the things that I actually did knit this year, and we'll go in order. So the first thing was a project that I had to do for Vogue Knitting Live. So this year was our first year showing at Vogue Knitting Live. It was so much fun, and I had the Rowan booth, so I was the Rowan booth for Rowan. I had my own booth, and then I was also the Noro booth. I had a booth for Noro, and that was really great fun. But I had Trisha had asked me to redo this garment in Rowan Yarns. So this is a big shawl. So it's a huge shawl, and this is worked in Rowan felted tweed color, and that was not so much work to do. I mean, it's on I think this is on a size 8 needle. It's very pretty. But the sort of the spectacular piece of this is this Kid Silk Haze. So the ruffle is made of 4 colors of Kid Silk Haze that coordinate with the colors of the Rowan felted tweed. And this, my dear friends, is an amazingly huge pain in the neck to do. So it was, you pick up all the way along the length of this long shawl. So I didn't even count the stitches. I know that there were so many, I just would be ill if I had to count it. But you should have seen us. So I worked on this so steadily and knit, 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 knit. And then you get to this ruffle, and honestly, we were driving up to New York, and I was driving, so I was like, we got to get this done. So it was Mary and Ginny and Jenny, and they all took turns knitting on this ruffle just to get it done by the time we got up there. And honestly, the day before the fashion show, I was binding it off. So it was that close. But this is an awful lot of knitting, and I think this would count as a sweater's worth of yarn, don't you think? My goodness. So that is the first one, and this is really a pretty thing. I love the way the felted tweed knits up. I'm not a big accessory knitter, so I don't knit very many shawls, but I do love this one. Well, you have so much time and effort into it. How can you not, right? It's like a baby. I'm laughing because my daughter is here with her husband this week from Seattle, and it's just been lovely. And she is expecting her first baby in May. So yay, I'm going to be a grandma in May. So that's very exciting. So you might see a slight shift in my knitting from selfish sweaters for me to generous sweaters for my new grandbaby girl. So very exciting. Okay, so let's see. Got a message. Happy New Year to you, Barbara. Nice to see you. My goodness, so lovely. Hi, Barbara Wilson. Okay, so the next thing from this year was Agave. And I did a little knit along with this. This is one I remember finishing up while we were on out in Seattle this year. This is a design from Tweed Haze, Structured Tweed Haze. It was by Georgia, not Georgia. Oh my gosh, her name is completely out of my head, but I will get it in a minute. Yeah, Georgia Farrell. Okay, so this was a design by Georgia Farrell. This is really, really cute. It's super easy. It's 3 little pieces. A lot of you did this with me as a knit along. Super cute. I loved this because it was fun, and again, it was easy, it was fast. I love this yarn. It's super soft, and it's super light, and it's really beautifully warm. You can see it still has the, it's been spending a lot of its life at the shop, so it still has its tag on it. But it's a beautiful thing. Can you tell that I like fuzzy? I love fuzzy. So this is a really nice one. And we have these put together as kits in the shop for the Agave. And this yarn actually is on sale right now. If you go to Crazy for You, you'll see the link to the sale yarn. So the Tweed Haze is on sale for our after Christmas sale. So very cool. Okay, the next one that I did, I will count this in this year because even though I started it at the end of last year, we did a knit along with this one. I did finish it this year, so that counts, right? And this one is, this is Stockholm by Petite Knit. This is the first Petite Knit garment that I have done. I have admired her stuff for a really long time. I think the designs are very clean and they're very elegant, and she uses in a lot of instances 2 finer yarns to make up a bulkier yarn. Not that this is bulky, this is a DK gauge, but the fabric that she gets by using multiple strands is so pretty, and it has such a beautiful drape, and it's really, really light that I absolutely love it. So this is Stockholm. It is just a simple crew neck sweater, and it is worked. I used 1 strand of Rowan fine lace and 1 strand of Kid Silk Haze. So I actually have brought our kit home to show you. So the colors are really, really close. So very pretty. And these are actually the colors that I used for mine. But again, the fabric is just really, really delicate and delightful. There are a lot of construction details on this garment that I like fit every single time. I don't tend to be a top-down, in the round knitter. I much prefer, knitting in pieces and then seaming them, mostly because I prefer the way you can get a nicely shaped shoulder with you can get a beautiful set-in sleeve and a well-fitting shoulder with that method. But the Stockholm is a drop shoulder anyway. So this is worked with what they call English construction, English tailoring. So it's worked from the top down, and you cast on at the shoulder, and you can see you work some short rows on this. Can you see that? So you get some shaping along the shoulder with the short rows, and then you pick up and you knit down to where you would join for the sleeves, and then you join it in the round. I think, oh yeah, I actually didn't knit this in the round. I knit this in pieces, so you can see that I seamed it. I did do the construction. I did do this top bit in the round, and I did the short rows and the pickup, but when it got to the sides here, I actually kept them separate and worked the front and the back separately and seamed them, simply because that's the way I like to do it. The sleeves are very beautifully, the construction method on this is that you pick up and work around, and then I really like this. So this was interesting to me, picking up all around the armhole and then working a few short rows all the way up and around to give you a tiny bit of a sleeve cap. Even though it's a drop shoulder, it gives you a little extra right here because it fits sort of close. And to be perfectly honest, I'm not sure that I notice any real difference with the short rows, but I did it just to sort of see, because I'm learning all the time, right? Anyway, I love this. I have only worn it once, but it is beautiful light and it is wonderful against the skin. Tell me in the chat if you knit this. A lot of people did knit this with me, so I would be interested in knowing. Oh, and it has a beautiful, it has this beautiful neckline. So you pick up and work the neckline after, but it's a turned neckline, which you know I'm a huge fan of that turned neckline, because I think that gives it a very clean kind of edge. So very pretty. Ginny knit one of these in red, and they're just so pretty. Okay, so it looks like I kind of had a rowan year, didn't I? This was my summer knit, spring, summer. This is Veronique, and this was on the cover of Rowan 73. This is by Chloe Thurlow. This is worked in Rowan hand knit cotton, and it's worked in pieces, and it's worked with what they call the intarsia technique. You probably know how this works, but the front and the back are worked separately, but these are not worked separately. So this is worked, you work across with the white, and then you change mid-row to the next color. So they're not seamed, but all worked in one. So this is one style of color work, like I said, called intarsia. I made a lot of, I don't know why, I guess I just wasn't really paying attention on a lot of these. I made a couple mistakes on this, and I will share that with you. So in the sample, this pink and then the black, and then on the back, it should have been pink and black, so that you had pink all the way at the shoulder, so that it went up and over, and then you would have had this same color around the armhole. Ask me how much easier that would have been than to work halfway of this and that. So not good. That would have been crazy. Anyway, so this ended up not being as easy and straightforward as it might have been, but I still love it. It is beautiful to wear. I also cut in the, I cut the armhole in a little more. So if you are interested in that and you like the look of that, I cut that in till it was about 12 inches wide, because I'm always going to be changing it to suit my shape and my preferences. Hi Meredith. Yes, it is a good reminder to finish the projects. Did you start Stockholm? I didn't, like I said, I didn't finish it till this year, so don't feel bad. All right, so again, this is Veronique by Chloe Thurlow, and it is in the Rowan 73 magazine. And I knit this in hand knit cotton, so it's a really great feel, beautiful to wear. But don't make the mistakes I did. All right, let's see what else we got. Oh, we're doing good on time, right? Tell me in the chat what you knit this year, because I'm always interested in, the projects that you're doing, and whether, I feel, like I said, I feel a little bad, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sweaters in a year. Somehow I feel like that's an underachievement. I think about my friend Irina, and we were talking about how we were both going to do this kind of an episode on YouTube. I think she must have done 12 or 15 different sweaters this year. I think all she does is knit. So anyway, that's a lot, right? Okay, so this is, so you know that I am a big custom fit girl, and I like the custom fit program. And what I did for this one was we had a class on this, and I generated the patterns for every size from custom fit. And because I didn't have everybody's measurements, I generated the patterns to the Craft Yarn Council of America body standards. And let me tell you, if there was ever an example of why you need to learn to modify your own patterns, that is it. What I saw in just firsthand was how those patterns work. And when you think about how the standards go, so you start with a bust size. So whatever the small, I think I did the smallest was like a 30-inch bust. And the patterns are all graded to be proportional to what they consider a 30-inch bust. So the assumption is that if you have a 30-inch bust, everything is proportionally smaller and shorter. So the armholes on the 30-inch bust were only like 6 inches deep. But this is why you need to learn to modify your own pattern, because, even for me, I did, I think, a 34-inch bust. And the armhole even then was much too short for me. And I think a lot of my knitters ran into that problem, and we had to go back and adjust not only the body length, but the armhole depth. And, looking at the neckline and all of those kinds of things that you want to make sure your pattern fits you. So it really is important. The pattern, it's a recipe, it's a guideline, but your body is your body. And if your body is a normal body, it's probably not going to match up with the bodies in the standards, the Craft Yarn Council of America standards, because you might be taller or shorter or wider or narrower or whatever combination of attributes that are going to make that not fit you exactly the way that you want it to. So the pattern is not right. I'll get off my soapbox in a minute. The pattern is not right. The pattern is a guideline. Your body and your measurements are what you need to look at when you're making a sweater. So if you follow the pattern exactly and it doesn't fit, that's not, you don't win anything for getting it exactly like the pattern if it doesn't fit you, right? Okay, so I still love this little top. I think it's super cute. It's just a little square neck summer tank with the tiniest little bit of trim, and it is worked in pieces. And I used Noro Kakagori, which is a beautiful it has no wool in it. So it's cotton and silk, and I think it has some polyamide here. I brought a skein home from the shop to show you. Yep, 50% cotton, 30% silk, 10% viscose, and 10% polyamide. So you know that viscose is rayon, and polyamide is like a microfiber, but it has a beautiful hand. So it's very pretty with the cotton and the silk. Look at how it kind of has those little flecks in it. Unlike most Noro, it doesn't stripe, but it doesn't stripe boldly. It does stripe a little bit, but pretty little flecks in there. And I think that you see that even more in the knitting. Can you see how the little flecks show up? Yeah. So again, I lengthened the body of this by a solid 2 inches between the waist and the armhole, and I lengthened the armhole by 2.5 inches, and I probably should have done it a little more. I do like where the neck hits though. But it's just a cute little top, and for a lot of the sizes, it takes just one of these skeins because they have 660 yards on them. So that is very cool. All right, let's see. What does Jill have to say? Okay, metamorphic, contentment, agave, padron, staple linen top, derecho, Emma. Oh my goodness. Jal, you are the bomb. Look at you. All right, let's see. Suzanne. Yeti Love baby blanket. Oh, good deal. Good deal. Phyllis. I did a Magnolia, Emma, tank top, rear window, hats, cows. Wow, you should be proud of yourself, Phyllis. That's awesome. Good for you. Good for you. It was a busy year for me. I did a lot of knitting, just a lot. Not as much on garments, as I said, because I was knitting all those swatches. But I feel good about having done the swatches and having taught those Rowan classes, because one, it was really nice to be able to reach a lot of people on Rowan Connect. I loved meeting them and, kind of seeing them, and I loved teaching. And I'm also putting those classes into a digital format that you can take at your pleasure. So look for those in the same way that I have the Keisha, the My First Sweater. Look for the, it's going to be called Intuitive Knitting, and also Handcrafted, Not Homemade. So there'll be those classes that you can take, and then when you purchase them from me, you will own them. Rowan gives you 2 weeks to look at them, but it's nice if you want to go and refer to that later on. So look for those coming early spring. Okay, so the last one that I did, how are we doing on time? Doing good. Okay, the last one is another petite knit. And I think this must have been one of the early ones that she did. This is called Terrazzo. So really pretty sweater. Again, this is a Noro yarn. This is Silk Garden Sock Solo and Kid Silk Haze. I did a few videos or reels on how the Kid Silk Haze changes the color of the base yarn. If you haven't seen that, go and look for those in the shorts and on Instagram. It's just remarkable. I had what I consider to be a fairly drab, kind of very grayed, pale purpley burgundy. And then with this plum color, it just really, really punched it up. I may still have that here. Let's have a look. Yes. Okay. So this was the base yarn that I had for this sweater. And here is the yarn that I carried it with. So you can see that this is not a color that jumps out at you and says, oh, that's so gorgeous. But carried with the Kid Silk Haze, I just think it's a beautiful fabric. That Kid Silk Haze is just pretty special. Or, any of the lace weight mohairs, they just give an aura to the yarn that is so pretty. So this, again, this is Terrazzo, and this was an interesting construction. It is a contiguous sleeve rather than being a dropped shoulder. I mean, it's worked all in one. So it was kind of interesting because you start with these stitches all the way around the neck, but there are stitches here that don't get increased, and they form kind of a saddle shoulder. So sort of interesting how that works. It reminded me a little bit of the Cocoa Knits construction, but again, I'm learning about the top-down construction. I really want to understand it so that I can modify it better myself, you know, to fit me and to help my students make sweaters that fit them perfectly. But this was kind of interesting because you had increases at different rates, and then when you got down here, you had what she called a raglan increase, but it reminded me a lot of the way if you are making a standard construction sweater, how you have that at the armhole, you have that bind off and then that fast decreases and then working straight. So I believe that this comes closer to the fit of a standard construction set-in sleeve. And I do really, really like this a lot. I, in fact, have another one on needles in a different colorway. Did I bring that in? Yes. Yeah, let me share this with you. So this is actually the color that is shown in the pattern. This is the Silk Garden Sock Solo in the much sought after S1, and then with the white Kid Silk Haze. So that's really pretty. I have that all swatched up. Actually, I have the fun part done. You know, I've worked through the yoke, and then it's just the kind of knit round and around and around, which isn't that much fun. I did do this solidly in the round, and it took me longer than I am proud of. But so I promised you I would tell you what I did and didn't like about the different sweaters. For the most part, I liked everything. I will say that I am not a fan of this twisted rib. So a lot of knitters or designers will use a twisted rib, I guess because they think it gets it tighter. I find that what happens is it biases. Do you see how that twisted rib on the cuff is causing the entire cuff to twist? And that's because you're knitting into the back of the knit stitch, but you're not knitting into the back of the purl stitch. By contrast, when you do the neckline, this is a half twisted rib. This is a full-on twisted rib where you work into the back of the knit stitch and into the back of the purl stitch. It doesn't bias, but it does give it an attractive sort of twisted rib effect. See how it looks kind of braided? So I think that's pretty. I also am excited because it called for the Italian bind off, which was very fun. And you know, that was what we called back in the day the sewn bind off. And I always did it, and I always had a piece of paper with it. But after this project, I didn't have to refer to the paper anymore. I was able to kind of get it and see where it was going. So I felt really good about that. That was kind of a fun learning experience for me. So even after 30 years of knitting, there are still things to see and to learn, and I think that's kind of cool, right? That's what keeps knitting interesting for me. So let's see. Like the wine, thank you. So yeah. I don't know which one is my favorite. I don't think you can have a favorite. It's like children, again, you can't have a favorite. They're all different and they're all special and you love them all. But I might not make this one. I added a little length to this. I think it was supposed to be kind of cropped, but you know, I'm tall, so I added a little length to it, and I'm not sure I would have added quite so much length. Yes, I know it's knit top down. I could take the bottom out and cut it off, but I promise you I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to wear it this way and, you know, let it blouse up a little bit. I have worn it. It's very comfortable. Has a really deep turtleneck, which I love a good turtleneck. So super good. This is fun. Yeah. So that is what I knit this year, and next week I'm going to be sharing with you kind of my plans or my thoughts for going forward into 2024. So it's nice to have a plan, but not have it be set in stone. So we'll look at that, and if you have any thoughts on what you're going to knit, bring those next week, because I would love to hear, what you have on your knitting agenda for next year. So thank you very much for joining me tonight. It was a pleasure to have you, and thank you for letting me indulge my accomplishments this year. I am proud of you and your knitting, and I look forward to a wonderful 2024 knitting together. So we will see you next week. Good night.